It's time for our second edition of What If Wednesday, where Pat Kilby and I explore what might come to pass in certain theoretical scenarios. Last week, it was a bunch of negative things like bad stuff. So here's to hoping that we get to answer some positive questions this time around.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, October 11th, 2023. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. Joining me as he does every week is our guy, Coach Pat Kilby. We were just talking some baseball. I didn't realize JT Real Muto, the Phillies catcher, is actually from the high school where Pat works and coaches. So that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, hopefully my Braves are going to smash them as they go to Philadelphia right now. We want to thank you all for joining us here today on Locked On Tar Heels, your first listen or watch of the day to get the best Tar Heels content out there. This episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 or more infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. All right, Pac, I've got this bowl for us again. We're going to be pulling out these questions. First, just a couple things looking ahead. On tomorrow's show, a super fun interview and conversation with former Tar Heel and NBA champion Pete Chilcutt joining the show. I've got to say, I think that's probably the first NBA champion we've had on here, so we're crossing that threshold off. And then on Friday, we'll have Coach Bill Robinson on. We're going to be doing just a little prep work ahead of live action and a few other topics as well. By the way, if you want to come join us and have conversation while live action's going on Friday, make sure you hop into the Discord. You can find the link on the show notes, whether you're listening to or watching the show. Pat, in fact, dropped in there the other day a great primer and preview for Carolina hosting Miami on Saturday. So you want to come be part of that community. So, Pat, let's get right into this thing. I've got our bowl, got a bunch of questions in here, and we're going to look right into them. You ready for me to pull out the first one?
Let's do it.
I'm not looking. What if Carolina starts ACC play 4-0? This is interesting because last week we pulled a question that said, what if Carolina goes 0-3 against that Tennessee, Kentucky, UConn stretch? And so this one is kind of the opposite, but in ACC play. What if the Tar Heels start ACC play 4-0? So Pat, let me just set this up for everyone, the beginning of ACC play, and then we'll get your thoughts on how it might go. Reminder, there's always that first ACC game in recent years that comes. That is Carolina hosting Florida State, comes right in between Tennessee and UConn. It'll be on Saturday, December 2nd. But then I think a big part of the reason we wrote this what if is because the beginning of the main chunk of ACC play is 3 straight road games. At Pitt on January 2nd, at Clemson on January 6th, and then at NC State on Wednesday, January 10th. So, Pat, 4 games into a 20-game stretch, 3 road games out of the way. What if Carolina reels off all 4 of those as victories? What do you think?
Well, a couple things come to mind. First of all, most importantly, starting 4-0 means we've got 3 road games underneath our belt, and we're at 4-0, and that's huge. It means we've avenged some losses that we need to take care of from last year. Some sour taste, like
That's
especially Pitt. I have some very sour taste in my mouth from those games with them. And so I'd really love to see us get back to that. And I just, I think I talked about this on a podcast, maybe 2 podcasts ago, but it feels like it's been a while since Carolina has just flat taken care of business in ACC play in the regular season. And I would just love to see us get off to a 4-0 start because that means we'd be well on our way to doing that. But it also means that we've grown and we've gotten better as a team, and that we're clicking and we're rolling on all cylinders and we're playing good basketball, because you don't go 4-0 with 3 road games in the ACC without playing good basketball. And so if we're doing that, that means we've hit the ground running and we're ahead of the 8 ball already.
Yeah, I love all that. And I mean, as I look at specifically who these 4 opponents are, there's nobody. I mean, obviously it's ACC play. Anybody can beat anybody, but you look at Florida State and there's nobody really, that they're going to be better than they were last year, should be. But they do lose Matthew Cleveland, who transferred to Miami. And I just think that Carolina should be able to handle them. Hopefully, as you said, get some revenge on the road at Pitt, at Clemson. Clemson still has some dudes. They got PJ Hall still there and a couple other dudes. Alex Hemingway, I believe, is still there. NC State, you got to contend with DJ Burns. A lot of that backcourt from last year's gone, but they do have some other dudes in and some transfers. But there's nobody in that 4-game stretch, or I guess it's not a 4-game stretch, but in these first 4 ACC games, that's like you look at it and it's like, oh, Carolina can't go win that game. If they are who we hope they are this season and who we think they could be this season, they should be able to do that. Now, another kind of fortunate thing is that you do have this stretch, and the first 2 of those 3 road games, students probably aren't back yet. Tuesday, January 2nd at Pitt, Saturday, January 6th at Clemson. Students might be moving back into Clemson that weekend. But I know, because I've looked at NC State's calendar, that students do start that week. And so they'll probably be back in Raleigh for that 3rd game of that road trip. But I mean, the other part of this, as you said, is it takes out quite, 3/10 of your ACC road games right out of the gate. And if you win all 3 of those, if in this world where you're 4-0, the worst you can do is 3-7 on the road in ACC play. And if you started out 3-0, you're not going to lose, 7 more games. I mean, you look at the rest of the away schedule. At Boston College, that's a really winnable game. At Florida State, that'll be tougher. At Georgia Tech, they should be not great. That should be winnable. At Miami, that's going to be a tough game, Pack. At Syracuse, hard to know what to expect from them this year with a new coach. At Virginia, that'll always be tough. And then at Duke to close things out. Obviously, that's going to be a tough game too. But I feel like if you come out of these 4 games 4-0, meaning you're 3-0 on the road, no reason Carolina can't at worst be 5-5 on the road in ACC play. And I think that might be selling them short, Pack. You think they can get to above 500 on the road in ACC play with
Absolutely.
this start?
Yeah, I do. I expect, I know maybe this seems bold, but I expect 7-3. At Virginia, at Miami, at Duke, those are tough. Every other one of those is very, very winnable.
Yep.
In fact, I would venture to say, I mean, we won't know until time comes, but I would think we would be favored in every one of those games that I just mentioned, with the exception of possibly at Virginia, at Miami, and at Duke.
Yeah. Here in the preseason, looking ahead to that, I would suggest that you're probably right, and remains to be seen. So I feel like in those 3 road games that you're isolating, I think if you go, I mean, obviously you'd love to sweep them. You'd love to go 2-1, but I think realistically, you're like, it'd be nice to get it just at least one of those 3 games, right? And if it's only one, we know which one we'd rather have. Again, I want all 3 of them or 2, but I think if you can win those other 7, you'd feel great getting one of those 3, and then you finish 8-2 on the road in ACC play. And if you've done your work at home in the Smith Center, you're in great shape. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think that is a great place to be. Pack, anything else? What if Carolina starts ACC play 4-0?
The last thing I'll say is I'm encouraged by the leadership and the veteranness of this team. So if Carolina does start 4-0, I think it's going to be in large part due to the fact that we've got the leadership that we need, and guys that are just, bringing it and leading and guiding this team and giving us this chance to start 4-0. And I think it's a real possibility that we do that.
I agree. And I think it means if Carolina starts ACC play 4-0, that they've also probably been doing really good work in the non-conference part of the schedule too, right? And so I think that means you're probably sitting, if you've done this and that means of what you've done in a really tough non-conference schedule, you're probably sitting top 15, top 10 in the country at that point, and you got a square target on your, or not, you've squarely got a target on your back that you have to contend with. And so would love to see it happen. All right, folks, we got 2 more questions we got to pull today. We'll see what we get. Hopefully some more positive things to talk about as we look to these fun scenarios. By the way, there have been all sorts of great suggestions coming in. In fact, I think we got some in the bucket here that are from our Discord and some other places. And so I took note of that when I wrote those down. So hopefully we'll pull some of those. So if you've got some what ifs for What If Wednesday, write them down, send them to us. We'll get them added to our little What If Wednesday bucket. All right. Boom. First one done, out of the way. Pack. As we move into our next one, I need to tell you all that this episode of Locked On Tar Heels is brought to you by Jace Medical. I don't know about you, but life's so busy and it's hard for me to find time to go to the doctor, find the antibiotics I need. And I think that everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected moments of life. That's why Jace Medical offers you the Jace case, which provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand, and it's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics from Jace Medical today by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Doctor created, doctor recommended. Jace Medical. All right, folks, coming up on Friday, don't forget Locked On College Football Kickoff Live is going to be getting you ready for all of this weekend's college football action. It'll be 11 a.m. till noon Eastern right here on the Locked On Tar Heels YouTube page and any other Locked On College YouTube channel if you want to go check it out somewhere else. Make sure you hop in. Locked On College Football Kickoff Live Friday from 11 a.m. till noon Eastern. All right, Pack, you ready to pull another one here?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what we can get. Ooh. All right, Pack. This one says this. What if Paxson Wojcik and Cormac Ryan come out on fire? And this one comes to us from UNC Minded on Discord. What up, UNC Minded? Thank you for this wonderful question, or this wonderful what if. So, Pack, and this is interesting given some of what we've seen from practice footage last week of both Paxson and Cormac out there playing together on the wings. What if both of these dudes come out on fire? And I'm interpreting this in real time to mean come out on fire like for the season, not just like in a one-off game scenario. So what if these two dudes start the season and they're absolutely blazing it up, ripping the nets?
Well, several things. First of all, that's great for us.
Enough said. There you go. That's great. That's all we need to know.
So let me kind of set the stage here. For those of you that have watched Coach Hubert Davis's media interview on Monday, it was fantastic. He allowed a great deal of insight into what was going on in the program. And if you haven't, I encourage you to go check that out. Inside Carolina posted it on YouTube. And one of the things, the reason I'm mentioning it, Coach Hubert Davis, he's talking about 3 guys have the green light: RJ Davis, Paxson Wojcik, and Cormac Ryan. And so obviously 2 of those are mentioned here in this question. And that tells me that those guys have been on fire in practice because the way he was talking, the way Coach Davis was talking was that he's really cracking down on them this year about shot selection. And he's really trying to hold those guys accountable. And so for him to say that those 3 have the green light, that means they're shooting the ball well. And that means he trusts them to knock down shots. And I expect them to come out shooting the ball really well. I don't know what we would term as come out hot.
Yeah, what would, like, you as a coach, what would you call, let's say, first 10 games of the season, like the first third of the season, or let's cut it to 5. Because coming out hot. So let's go the first 5 games of the season, which is 1/6 of the regular season, roughly. What would you term as hot? Or
38% or higher from 3. I'd take that any day of the week. I think that's
on how many attempts a game?
Yeah, for Cormac, he needs to be taking at least 5 a game, in my opinion. And then Paxson, probably in a more limited role than what Cormac will have, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they're both shooting 38% or higher, that's going to be huge. And then, the other thing I wanted to mention, and I have this on pretty good authority from people I know that have seen Carolina practice, those 2 are the two hardest workers on the team.
Mm-hmm.
When that practice is over, they're immediately getting into their shooting routine. They're getting shots up, and they've earned the right to be able to shoot well when the lights come on and people pack the stands. And so if they come out hot, I won't be surprised, but I know that it'll be great for us. It's going to stretch the floor. It's going to open things up for Armando, which is also going to open things up for them. And it's going to be one of those relationships where they really thrive off of each other, and that's nothing but good for Carolina's offense.
You hit the exact nail on the head of what I wanted to touch on. While you were talking, I just jotted down reciprocal relationship with Armando, because I love what you're saying there. I think part of them coming out on fire means that they go higher on the scouting report, which does what? Exactly what you just said. Clears up space in the interior for Armando to operate. What was, Pack, one of the biggest issues last year? There was no spacing because Carolina was a poor three-point shooting team. And so Mondo had no room to operate. That's part of why he wasn't, along with injuries and other things, part of why he wasn't as efficient or didn't have as many good counting stats last year. But if these guys are on fire, plus, as you've kind of alluded to, I'm guessing RJ's not coming out as a slouch. But the good news is, if you got these three dudes with their high level of shooting, they're not all going to be off at the same time, or if they are, it'll be a very short span. But I just think the way that this year's team is going to open things up for Armando more, as you said, it's going to all be the circle of life, ha, so enya, baba beat, whatever the words are, and they're all going to be helping each other out. I'm lifting Simba up for those of you who are listening and not watching. But I just think that the way that this could help the team do those things is incredible. You talked about attempts per game. Let me just give you the numbers for these two guys at their former places. For his career, Cormac Ryan has averaged 5.2 threes per game, 5.7 last year. His lowest ever was 4 threes a game his junior year. As for Paxson, in the years where he's had a lot more run, which is the past 2 years at Brown, he attempted 4.9 threes a game. So they're right there pretty much in lockstep with each other in terms of that. And so, man, I love that. If together they're averaging 7, 8, 9 threes a game, whoo, my friend, that's going to put things in a great spot. By the way, with RJ, let's look at his attempts per game numbers. For his career, he's averaging 4.5 threes per game. Obviously, that number was higher the past 2 years, and so I would expect it to be so again. So, Pat, looking at great stuff there, and man, I think ultimately, bottom line, if Paxson, Wojcik, and Cormac Ryan come out on fire, it's going to bleed into the first what if that we had, that no duh, Carolina is going to be 4-0 in ACC play, because this means that this team is doing something good. It means that Elliot and Harrison are doing a great job of facilitating and getting these guys the ball in spaces they need. It means Armando's doing a great job kicking out to them and finding them on the wing. It means that they are getting to the wings and locating in transition game, and lots of great stuff is happening. Pack, any other thoughts from you on this second what if of today's conversation?
You kind of mentioned it earlier. It's just the way these two shoot it, and then you start to look at the way RJ shoots it. And then that's not even thrown in. Harrison can shoot it. Jae'lyn Washington can stretch the floor. Elliot is a capable shooter. We've got guys that can really stretch the floor for us this season. And so I really look for us to be a much improved shooting team from beyond the three-point line.
It's not going to be hard to do that, because they had the second worst three-point shooting percentage in program history last year. So, Pack, I would certainly hope so. If not, things have gone terribly awry. Well, friends, we've got one more what-if scenario to check into today. Can't wait to see what it's going to be. There goes that second what-if card. We're going to look at it in just a second. But first, I need to tell you that this episode of Locked On Tar Heels is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks, which offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide you even more value. And with the Prize Picks reboot policy, your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets hurt. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. And this thing is crazy easy to do, Pack. Listen to this. You pick 2 or more players, and you look at one stat, and you just choose more or less than that given number. I was laughing on Sunday. I was looking at some of the options. One of them that stood out to me, more or less, Patrick Mahomes, 155.5 passing yards. Pack, you taking more or less than that?
More.
Every single day of the week, friends. My man Pat Kilby knows what he's talking about. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, my brother, we have one more What If Wednesday we need to get to. I can't wait to see what this one's going to be. By the way, thanks again to UNC Minded for submitting that. Can't wait to get some more user ones. Hopefully, maybe this one will be from user. Oh, no, it's not. This is from either me or Pack. I can't remember which of us posed this one. All right, Pack, you ready?
I'm ready.
What if, and this is interesting given the spacing conversation we just had, what if Armando Bacot averages 16 points and 13 rebounds a game? What do you think about that, Pat Kilby?
I think if Armando averages 16 and 13, we'll start ACC play 4-0. It is funny how all these kind of build on each other.
Yeah, but, all three of them. Yeah, they dovetail. Love it.
I think with the improved spacing that we just finished talking about, I think two things. Number one, it's going to free Armando up for him to just catch the ball and be able to work inside and do his thing and finish around the rim. But it's also going to create better rebounding opportunities for him on the offensive end because of that floor spacing. That lane's going to be a little bit more clear. There's going to be less bodies in there. He's going to be able to clean up on the offensive boards. And I think that's going to really feed into not only his points, but his rebounding. And so I think 16 and 13 is very possible. I think it's a reality. I don't think it's a huge stretch. And the reason I don't think it's a huge stretch is because he's put up similar numbers before. And with this team, this arguably, time will tell, but arguably on paper, this is the best team he's had as far as being able to stretch the floor. And so I think that's going to play into his numbers. Now, the kicker to this is because it's the best team he's had, there's going to be a lot more pieces. There's going to be a lot more people that can score the basketball, and shots hopefully are going in the hoop more frequently. So that could also cut down on his offensive rebounding and even possibly some of his touches. But I do think that 16 and 13 is well within reason. I think he's still going to be the focal point of our offense. I think that we're going to play from the inside out and depend on him to open up space for those shooters on the perimeter. And so I definitely think it's a possibility. And if he does average 16 and 13, then there's a strong chance that he's going to get that All-American honor that gets that banner, that jersey up in the rafters. And so, which fingers crossed, I'm hoping that he does.
Yes.
But I definitely think it's a real possibility.
Well, I think so too, and you alluded to it. Pack, I remembered as you were talking that I was the one that wrote this, and I didn't tell you, but you hit the nail on the head because Armando's junior year, this was exactly what he averaged, the run to the national championship game. Armando, his junior year, averaged 16.3 points and 13.1 rebounds. And so this would be exactly replicating that if he's able to do it. And here's the thing. I think that he can because this team, at least in terms of front court makeup, resembles a lot more that team when he and Brady Manek most of the time were the ones sharing the front court rather than last year when it's him and Pete Nance. I think Harrison Ingram, who at least right now we think will be the person that he shares the front court with most of the time, will be operating more or operating less inside the lane, more similar to Brady than similar to Pete Nance last year. Now, obviously, Harrison Ingram is nowhere near the shooter that Brady Manek is, but his game is more similar in that way that it will be a little bit more perimeter oriented than was Pete Nance's, which opens up more opportunities for Armando inside, both to score and to rebound when he or others miss a shot. Another part, I love what you said about hopefully there's more shots going in and so less rebound opportunities. But I would also say this, Pack, if everything we've been hearing from Coach Davis directly, from every report from camp, from people that I've talked to that have been at practice, that have seen practice, all of this, Coach Davis just continues to push pace, even going so far as to run with the guys himself. And to me, that means, Pack, I don't know if you know how basketball works. I know you're a coach, but let me let you in on a little secret. You know how you win a basketball game?
You put the ball in the hoop more than the other team does.
That's very accurate, or at least your times of putting it in the hoop are worth more than the other team. One of the ways you do that a lot is by creating more possessions for yourself, and one of the ways you can do that is by playing faster. That speeds up the game. You get more possessions, and there are obviously other ways: offensive rebounds, steals, etc. Right now, if Carolina's playing faster, even if there's a better scoring distribution on this team, faster equals more possessions equals hopefully more points, unless that field goal percentage is way down, which I think ultimately means even though we project to hopefully be a better balanced offensive team this year, I think there's going to be more points, a bigger pie to take a chunk out of anyway. And so I think that can translate to 16 on the point side. And then I think his loneliness on the interior is going to definitely translate to those 13 boards. Could he, Oscar Tshiebwe is gone. Could he challenge for leading rebounder in the country? That's an interesting what if for one day. But I don't see why that's the wildest scenario to think about.
Yeah, I don't think there's many out there that could challenge him for the best rebounder. And I think stats will show that by the end of the season. And you brought up a great point about faster pace and putting more points on the board, so there's a larger pie to take a chunk from. But I think that because of that point, it's worth mentioning how Armando has done a great job of he's changed his frame, and he's not necessarily as thick. He's a little bit more mobile, and that's going to pay off with his ability to run the floor, get those rim runs, get down there early, and take advantage of offensive rebounding opportunities on missed shots and transition. And I think he's really setting himself up for a faster paced year, not just because we're playing faster, but for him, to be able to run the floor and create those easy buckets for himself. I think that's going to be huge.
All right, Pac, I'm looking at the numbers just to see about putting my money where my mouth is here. Last year, down year rebounding wise for Armando, right? I think we would all agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
He was still 10th in all of D1 in rebounds per game average, and 5th amongst high major players. Oscar Tshiebwe was number 1. Obviously, Zach Edey, who's back, was number 2. Wouldn't be surprised if he's the leading rebounder in the nation. And then on down the list a little bit, Joel Soriano from St. John's was ahead of him, as was Trace Jackson-Davis, who's gone now. So only 2 of those high major players above him are returning this year. But 2 years ago, when he averaged 13 rebounds a game, my man was 3rd in the nation. Oh, entire D1, high major, low major, doesn't matter. That's what Armando did 2 years ago, Pac. No reason to think that's not realistic again this year.
Absolutely.
Oh boy, that is more fun What If Wednesday content. Thank you everyone for submitting it. Pac, thank you and I for submitting some great what ifs too. There's that third one behind my TV. I hope I didn't do anything bad. You guys, so great to be together today on Wednesday talking What If Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels. You can follow Pac at Coach_K23. You can follow me at Isaac Schade. Email the show for more in-depth conversations. Maybe you got some questions to submit, or that you have lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Or once again, we'd love for you to come join the Discord server where we have just great conversation kind of ongoing throughout the day. I'm sitting at work and messages pop up and we're replying to it and doing it. It's a great fun. Again, the links for that are in the show notes. Please subscribe to the show, audio and visual formats. And if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. We'd love to hear your comments on these what ifs. What did we get right? What did we get horribly wrong? Friends, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Again, we'll be back tomorrow with an interview with Pete Chilcutt, former Tar Heel basketball player, late 80s, early 90s. A great stretch of Carolina basketball. But until then, peace.